Hey there, I'm Connor, I'm Off the Cuff, and I'm talking to you about January 2016 movies. I saw 11 movies this month, and I thought I would get them all out of the way in one quick and easy, in one video. January is the worst month of the year, and I thought instead of making 11 individual videos, I would make one video with 11 micro reviews, and just get it out of the way. The first movie I saw this month was The Forest, starring Natalie Dormer, about the suicide forest at the foot of Mount Fuji. It's about a woman played by Natalie Dormer trying to find her twin sister, also played by Natalie Dormer. It's a dual performance, as she thinks her sister is going to commit suicide and wants to go in there to save her. And it's a horror movie, and it's the first movie of the year, so in regular January fashion, it's a horror movie, and it is really, really generically bad January movie. It's like last year we got The Woman in Black 2, Angelic Boogaloo, and this one is about as good, maybe less good. Let's talk about the performances. Natalie Dormer is serviceable. I know a lot of people were, not a lot of people, but some people were looking forward to this, to see what Natalie Dormer was going to do. She's been in Game of Thrones. She had a very small part in the Hunger Games movies, but this is kind of her first running a movie, and she was serviceable in both roles. She was serviceable. She wasn't really good. She wasn't bad. And then there's the male lead is a journalist who's gonna guide her, who knows some people to help her guide through the forest. She's also going in the forest with her. He is, serviceable. He's just generic, hunky guy. We're not supposed to know if we can trust him or not. Really, this premise really starts to fall apart when it becomes a horror movie. I think, honestly, this movie was kind of working at its best when it was almost like a supernatural drama about this woman who has a connection to her sister, and she's just trying to find her. And you kind of get into the whole mystical, ancient Japan, you can go there, but it doesn't. It just kind of becomes, oh my god, I'm in this forest, and ooh, is this all happening in my head? Is it not happening in my head? Who cares? And so it's also one of those movies where I don't know how these people don't know they're in a horror movie, especially since how xenophobic the portrayal of Japan is. So there's she probably should just get sushi, and it's the thing is still twitching on a plate. She's like, it's like, oh, man. So, I mean, she goes into the middle of the forest. They have the natives warning her to not go in the forest. There's, just random old people just, creeping up on her, and how does she not know she's in a horror movie? And so she goes in the forest, and she's like, I'm gonna stay here till I find my sister. But don't, it's gonna be at nighttime, and you don't want to be in the forest at nighttime, the natives say. Who cares? These people are so stupid. But I mean, outside, and the scares are so not creative. They'll have these scenes where they'll hear a noise, and then they'll just have a character walk slowly towards the noise, and then they'll see something, and it'll be like a ghost or something, and the ghost will just go. That's it, and then I woke up from a dream. Oh man, that was a hallucination. Oh, it was just in my head. Every time. And I mean, what am I supposed to be scared of? It's not happening to me. This can't happen to me. I'm not in Japan. I mean, even if I went to Japan, that wouldn't happen to me. I mean, it's just these people go. What happens when they go? What am I supposed to be scared of? It's like the only actual people that would was this one old lady, and it was part where just oh, that's my mom, don't mind her, sorry about that. Yeah, and every time. Then when they get into the forest part of the forest, there's it kind of becomes like this psychological. Is this happening in her head or is it not? And you know what? It's like kind of the movie's asking, "Oh, what do you think? Is it in her head? Is it not?" And then you're just kind of trying to involve the audience at that point. And I mean, if the movie's not, I would play along, but the movie has no idea what it's doing. It's like deliberately not making any sense. And you think, "Oh, well, what they're trying to do is no." It's not like that. Watch the movie, you will see that it really has no idea where it's going. It's really formless and it really loses its way. It really has no direction as to where it is going. And that's kind of where some of the annoying plot inconsistencies come. There are so many questions that just aren't answered. They're just left on the floor and it's not meant to be ambiguous. They're just completely dropped. It's not like it's a plot thread that lingers. It just completely disappears from the movie, and that's really where I got frustrated towards the end of the movie. In the last 4 seconds of the movie were really, really not good. We're really stupid. We're so obvious. They had to do that one last thing. Of course they did. Spoiler, this is just another. Well, let's get into the whole filmmaking aspect of how is it as a film. It's not poorly filmed. It's not. It's very static, very kind of bland. There's some good landscape shots. There's some good pickup shots. There's some nice landscape shots of Japan, the forest itself. It's very scenic, but it's not like it has a very particular style. It's not lit particularly well. It's just I appreciate that there's an effort to focus on practical effects. There's actual people in costumes. There's real things. There's real piles of bodies. There's real makeup effects. There's a tangibility to the way it's made, and I do respect that. But overall, I'm going to give The Forest a 3 out of 10. It's just a pretty generic January bad horror movie. And by the way, P.S., it's not the way twins work. People writing in Hollywood, it's just not. Twins don't work that way. Please stop making us work that way, because we don't. We can't feel each other when we're not in the same room together. The second movie I saw was Michael Bay's 13 Hours, The Secret Soldiers of Benghazi. And a lot of people kind of been saying, oh, they've been giving Michael Bay a pass on this one. Hey, he was all right. He did a decent job directing this movie. And why are we giving him a pass? This movie was not good. You could tell they were releasing it at this time to kind of cash in on that American Sniper kind of audience, but the whole circumstances surrounding both of these projects were so different. It's no wonder this movie isn't doing as well as American Sniper. Really, I think what a lot of people are saying is, it really pays respect to its subject. These really brave, courageous men. It's really paying respect to them. And I have respect for those men that did what they did. But this movie is, I don't think it paid respect to them because I could not tell you their names. This movie has very thin character portrayal on every single character. The 6 men are just tough guys. They're good guys. They've got the kids at home. They got their thin motivations. They've got their little character quirks, and they're righteous, and they're completely infallible, and they're perfect, amazing specimens. They're awesome. They can shoot guns like no one else can. They're awesome. Cool. Everyone else on the American side. Everyone else is, yeah, we're the smart ones now. You soldiers only here as a formality. Well, we're smart. We're handling this whole foreign correspondency. And Gale from Breaking Bad, his character was so annoying. And then there's this one blonde woman who's just, Why are you here? Let me do my job. And she was, you know, these thin, hollow, cardboard obstacles that are just in our character's way, just so our characters can go, "You're taking orders from me now." Speaking of which, the dialogue is really bad. It's every tough guy one-liner you've heard of. "You're in my world now. You're done taking orders. I'm the one taking orders now. Stand down." No, it's every tough guy one-liner. And the other dialogue isn't that good either. It's just a bunch of, like, it's like Frankenstein of other war trope in the dialogue. So the characters, the dialogue isn't very good. So how did Michael Bay do as directing it? Well, the reason I don't think it really paid much respect to its real-life heroes is because it is more focused on the action. It's a Michael Bay movie. What else did you expect? And the action is really not good. I mean, to be fair, the movie does pick up in its second half. Not by much, but it does pick up. Maybe because in the first half, I had no idea what was happening. It's just Michael Bay shaking his camera, just shaking it. I don't know what's up with the frame rate, and of course the crazy oversaturated colors. It's just everything is orange and blue. Everything is orange and blue. And he's shaking his camera, and it looks like they're all on a set, you know, in costumes and wearing makeup and running around because the frame rate is not at 24, and it's just lots of booming and banging, and, you know, half the movie just, "You shouting, we gotta get here, go, go, go," with their guns, and you're the big tough guys that got their guns, and then I didn't know what they were shooting at. I didn't know which one was which. They're all, you know, 6 foot tall, hunky men with brown hair and big beards. I don't know which one is which, and the camera's just doing this, and there's a car chase. I had no clue what was happening. I was trying my best to follow what was happening. I had no idea, because, you know, it's following. It shows one car leaving, and then, you know, you kind of follow them for a little bit, and it constantly cutting, and it shows Jim from The Office is driving this car, for example, you know, and then it shows, you know, an exterior of that same black car, that black vehicle driving, and then it cuts back to the inside, and it's a new driver. I'm like, oh my god, this is a different car. So there's 2 different vehicles that are identical, that are both engaging in something of an action scene, and is constantly cutting. I had no idea what was happening. It was very frustrating. And then when it gets to that second half, the camera finally smooths out a little bit. There's a couple of sweeping shots that are the best, you know, sweeping over the facility and into the fields, and those are the best shots in the movie. But the action then gets very repetitive. It's just, you know, fighting off wave after wave after wave of people while their resources dwindle and dwindle and dwindle. And I like that scenario, but that's all the movie was just this one scenario. And I'm like, come on, you gotta have a little bit more than that. Then the people who are attacking them are, you know, just these you know, these warm bodies to get shot up, and, you know, blank faces to get gun mowed down so our heroes can kill them. They're just this faceless threat that they have no motivations, they have no characters, we have no insight into why they are attacking. And I get, you know, they want to avoid anything political. They want to make it feel like you're one of the guys who are experiencing this. The problem, though, is there's a moment at the end where it's like you have all the wives and mothers coming, going, "No, our husbands are dead. And, you know, our fathers are dead." And I'm like, movie, you did not earn that moment at all. You did not earn that moment. And I don't really know what else to say about this movie. It's just I mean, okay, it is a movie that it's very hollow. There's nothing really to it. And it's, you know, it's very emotionally manipulative. It's just kind of weighing on those, you know, those tried and true war tropes to make you, the injustice. How could this happen? But it's not actually doing anything to warrant that. I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 10. It's not. To be fair, it's the best Michael Bay movie in at least 10 years, in a long time. I didn't hate myself while watching it. It was just, very, very bad in a conventional way. The next movie I saw was Ride Along 2. It is a sequel to Ride Along. It's directed and written by, I believe, both of them are Tim Story. It stars Ice Cube and Kevin Hart. It is about, again, it's a sequel to the first Ride Along. Kevin Hart is getting married to Ice Cube's sister, and Kevin Hart wants to be a full-time detective, and Ice Cube doesn't like that idea, so he's going to take him to Atlanta on a case so Kevin Hart can screw up, so he can't be on the force. And then hilarities and shenanigans ensue. Ken Jeong is in here, Olivia Munn is in here, and they're kind of get wrapped up in this whole corruption of this businessman, some drug trade, whatever. It's about the comedy, and I didn't laugh. I didn't laugh once, which is weird because I like Ice Cube. I like Kevin Hart. A lot of people are getting sick of Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart he has great energy. He's a very good dramatic actor. In The Wedding Ring, which wasn't a very good movie, but he really kind of brought in the dramatic scenes. He really brought something that was very, very raw, and I really liked it. In this movie, though, Kevin Hart is just basically carrying this movie on his loud shtick, where he's moving around and he's shouting and he's all, energetic. And Ice Cube, he looks like he's checked out. He does not want to be here. And ideally, you'd think, oh man, Ice Cube, Kevin Hart, they would have great chemistry. And I think they would if these characters are not, these characters are written to the part where they are so not on the same page at their banter and their personalities. They just don't have, their characters are designed to not have any chemistry. There's no, it's not endearing. It's just Kevin Hart's being annoying to Ice Cube to push his buttons, and Ice Cube's just being a jerk to Kevin Hart. And that's kind of it. And it's not endearing. And so, okay, well, fine. What about the situations they're put into? Well, on top of being a comedy, it's also supposed to have these cool action scenes, and the action isn't very exciting at all. And it's also, inside of the action, they try to incorporate these humorous ideas, there's this opening action scene, and it'll freeze frame, and have an opening title like costume designer, while Kevin Hart's pulling out his gun, costume designer, and okay, that's making fun of opening action scenes like you'd see in a James Bond movie. The problem is we have opening credits after the we have our cold opening, then we have Tim Story film Ride Along 2 starring Ice Cube and Kevin Hart, and then the movie goes on, and then in the middle of this action scene it says like associate producer, like that's the way they start this stylized credit scene. Huh? What? No. And then so it's kind of, they already had credits, and then they're doing like the credits part 2 in the stylized funny fashion. It was like, that was not a good way to incorporate those ideas, so that joke you had really didn't fit at all. And then there's this another thing that they do where Kevin Hart likes playing video games like a Grand Theft Auto, and there's a part where he's driving, and then like it makes the whole environment look like a video game, like he's in the video game, he's kind of seeing it as a video game that he's playing. And it was very poorly integrated. It was potentially a really good idea, but it didn't. It felt like a really cheap way to get out of filming around the limitations. Cheap way to get around having to do these weird stunts. Make it look like a video game. And that's another thing I didn't like about it. It looks very cheap. I don't know what it is, but why do all comedies have to look really cheap? I mean, Dumb and Dumber 2, which is a sequel to Dumb and Dumber, that looked very cheap. The last comedy I saw that looked like it had any money behind it was 22 Jump Street, and that's it. Everything else is just, everything looks kind of cheap. Like, even as much as I liked Spy, it looked like they were on a budget. Trainwreck, they use their budget appropriately, but I don't know what it is. Why do comedies have to look cheap? We have these side characters. Olivia Munn, she's trying. She's kind of overacting a little bit, but she's trying. But she's also given nothing to do at all. She just plays your typical "I'm a tough girl." Don't treat me like a like some stay-at-home wife. I'm a tough girl. She's just kind of playing that archetype. Ken Jeong in the movie is. He looks like he looks like he knows he's too old for this. He just looks like he's going through the motions. He's also very annoying. Ken Jeong is a very particular kind of comedy, and he looks like he looks like he's about as checked out as Ice Cube. To get more into the comedy here, it doesn't look like the comedy. They keep going for the obvious joke, the joke we've seen 100 times. Yo, Kevin Hart, you know what I think? I think you're stupid. Oh, yeah? Well, you know what I think, Ice Cube? I think you need to chill out. They come up with different ways to say that, but that's the gist of it. I know what I'm doing, Ice Cube. I know what I'm doing. No, you don't. Yes, I do. Let me show you. Then he does something. I guess so. Whatever. And then I'm supposed to laugh. And then there's a part where Kevin Hart has to eat something out of the garbage. I'm like, really, guys? We're going for this gross out gag? The chemistry between the characters isn't good. It's not funny. It's not a very rousing action movie. It just doesn't work at all. I didn't laugh at all. But it's not like it was oppressively bad. I was just in shock of how bad it was. It was just a bad comedy. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. Like I said, I like Ice Cube. I like Kevin Hart. I'd like to see them in a movie together where they had any potential to have good chemistry. Oh, and there's a pretty big plot hole involving a piece of evidence that was apparently gotten out of a car that was blown up, but that character couldn't have gotten to that car. Anyways, yeah, that's Tim's story. Pay more attention to your story. Oh boy, the next movie I got around to watching was Norm of the North, where Rob Schneider voices a twerking polar bear in the Arctic who goes to New York to stop this hippie from planting condos in the Arctic. It's this one is already kind of legendary for being a terrible animated movie. And it's, same thing we get every year. In 2014, we got our token piece of trash animated movie with The Nut Job, which was just it was bad, poorly animated, and it was a bad movie. And then last year we got Strange Magic, which was gorgeously animated. The movie was terrible, but it was wonderfully animated. And then now we're kind of back to that Nut Job thing where it is, wow, the animation is awful. Wow. I mean, I can't believe we still make movies that look this bad. Whenever I talk about the Lego movie or I talk about Inside Out, I say, oh my goodness, it looks incredible. And then in the back of my head I think, well, yeah, but when was the last time we saw an animated movie that didn't look good? So Big Hero 6, it's animated well, so what? It's not like it was anything unique about its visual design. But now we get to something like this, and Norm of the North, yeesh, man, textures look so bad. The hairs on these animals just look, you can see the space between them. Then the water, it looks like polygons moving like this, like it's a Nintendo 64 game. The way these actors' lips move, the way it is, it's nightmarish. I don't know how else to describe just how poorly animated it is. Then there's the account of the voice acting where Rob Schneider's voice, oh wow, it grates on the nerves. Heather Graham is there. Then we have what's his name, Gabriel Iglesias, even though that's not his real name. He voices 2 characters and he puts on these goofy voices. And wow, no voice acting was good in this movie. There's all these one note, everyone says every line the same, and this voice. And the movie is super, super obnoxious in both its voice acting and the way it's animated. Every character's eyes are all big and everything is all expressive, but they move like these weird dolls and they move unnaturally. And it is, the production of this is shockingly bad. But I did see the trailer for this movie, so it's not like, I got about what I expected. I got just as bad of a movie as I expected from watching the trailer. It was, it was really annoying, really irritating, really getting on my nerves when they're at the beginning of the Arctic. But when they finally get to New York, like, it sank into a whole nother realm of bad. I was like, okay, this is what I was expecting to get. We get these, non sequitur jokes and like these flashy, fight scenes. Like there's a part in a sushi bar. We get these puns. Oh, Karabuya. Then we get, I'm big boned, and he's using the stool legs as chopsticks. Ha ha, get it? Because he's a polar bear. Then we have these lemmings that assist him, and they're just a stand-in for the minions, and they're just as they're more annoying than the minions. They're there to make fart jokes. Hee hee hee. They're there to pee in the water. You're supposed to laugh because they're peeing for a long time. Ha, ha, ha. So, I don't know how else to describe it. Like, I work at a movie theater, and I've had, parents and kids leaving early because they just want their money back. It's that bad. It's not working on the target demographic. The audience I was in, the kids got super restless. The movie never ends. The jokes are super juvenile. They always go for the easy one. It's just a lot of really, really lame puns. There's these pop songs are just kind of inserted. The plot doesn't really make any sense. This movie has no logic. Like, Norm can speak human. Why they go into the flashback and he can just speak human? That's the way it is. Don't question it. None of the other animals can speak human, but he can. There's a pretty big plot hole involving how a child is able to get into a school. I have no idea. The movie just forgets it. Like, they have this rule. Ken Jeong, man, he's having a great January, hasn't he? He plays the hippie CEO trying to build condos. Whew. He's probably the worst voice actor. He has to he puts on this voice and he's just doing his Ken Jeong shtick, and his character moves his arms like this, and I am just rambling on too long about this. It's just as bad as everyone says it is. It earned it 0% on Rotten. I think it's at a 3% now. Whatever, it earned it. It's one of the worst animated movies it might be the worst animated movie I've seen in a theater. I have to get back to you on that. But I was kind of prepared by just how bad it would be from watching the trailer. I'm giving it a 2 out of 10. The next movie I saw was Dirty Grandpa. You saw the trailer for this. It's the one where Zac Efron, his grandpa is Robert De Niro, his grandma dies, and then the next day he takes his grandpa to Florida. They go to Daytona Beach, and then his grandpa, he's dirty. He wants to get back out there and have sex with a bunch of college girls. And, it's look how shocking it is. It's super offensive. Whoa. Oh my gosh. Robert De Niro said, what? Oh my goodness. He just did. Ew. I can't believe he's old. He's not supposed to do that. And I remember when the first trailer came out for this, everyone was like, oh my god, Dirty Grandpa, what? And then, surprisingly, nothing after that. Like, the studio was trying to hide it, and after seeing it, I can see why. Wow, this movie is really not funny. Now, to be fair, it delivered on its promise at first. You hear, there's a part where Robert De Niro, he's masturbating, and, Zac Efron walks in, what? And then, he starts, saying profane things that grandpas don't say. And it's like, I mean, it was delivering. I wasn't like, okay, this is what, I was expecting. And there was a couple situations they put him in that got a chuckle out of me. I was like, okay, Robert De Niro's putting in an effort to be as crass and crazy as possible. But the movie wears out real fast. And when it wears off, it got really bad. So the whole idea is Zac Efron has 2 days with his grandpa to get him from point A to point B so he can go back to point A so he can get married to Julianne Hough. And so that's your premise. That's your framework. That's your story. That's your structure. Point A, point B, back to point A. And oh my gosh, the crazy stuff that happened in this journey, this road trip, that's the joke. That's what we're following. And about halfway through the movie, it just chucks that. Like, the 2 days are over halfway through it, and they say, hold on, honey, I'm going to be another day. Hold on, honey, I'm going to be another day. Me and Grandpa are hanging out again. Just give me a... So, and then, Zach, they stay in Daytona Beach. They don't seem to, they don't ever get to point B. And it just kind of sits there so they can make a bunch of bottom of the barrel, seen them 100 million times jokes that we've all seen 100 times. It just becomes a bunch of excess, and it gets really hung up on these unbelievably annoying and irritating side characters. We have this one drug dealer, we have this cousin character, we have these two cops, and watching it, and the grandpa character is the best character in the movie, maybe just because it's Robert De Niro, but yeah, his presence lessens and lessens the more the movie goes on, and the movie gets worse and worse and worse. Not that it was good before, but it gets worse. There's just there's no way to describe what these characters are like. They aren't funny. They continue to be not funny, and they keep showing up to not be funny. We have a character that's a love interest for Zac Efron. Even though he's engaged, he's not getting engaged to the right person. It's that kind of movie, and his grandpa is showing him what he should really be doing with his life. And this we're introduced to this character, and she steals money, and then everything after that completely contradicts that whole character action. And like the movie is also very repetitive with its jokes. Like there's two Terminator jokes within the span of 10 minutes. Like two completely different. It's not like it's a recurring gag or anything. And the last 20 minutes are the worst. Maybe they're the worst 20 minutes of this movie, and up until this movie, they were the worst last 20 minutes of any movie in January I'd seen. Because it's very hollow. It's trying to pull at your heartstrings. It's trying to act like this movie has a soul and has a heart. And it was, so proud of itself that it was crass and crazy and out of control. And it's not by the end. It really, goes to convention, really goes to the well of following your heart. And it's super hollow. No, movie, you didn't earn that. And it's trying to incorporate these supporting characters that should not be there, but they're only there because the audience will like them. They're endearing. They're not. We don't like them. Go away. So yeah, and Zac Efron, and I like Zac Efron. He shouldn't be in these kind of. Why is he in this? And then Robert De Niro, but they don't really have much of a chemistry. And oh yeah, some jokes don't even make any sense. There's a scene with a little boy, and whole premise for that joke doesn't make sense because there's no way a little boy would ever do that. If you've seen the movie, you know what I mean. But there's no way a little boy would do that. The movie's energy was annoying. The movie was out of its way to be tasteless, and the movie's also. I'm sorry, I'm kind of going back and forth, but there's a part where they make it that the dirty grandpa can beat up everybody. he can beat up a whole gang of thugs at one time. And then there's like this part where Zac Efron's walking and a mutual friend goes, "Oh my gosh, your grandpa got kidnapped by those thugs." Well, no, they've already established that he can beat them all up, so where's the dramatic weight? Why is this coming out of nowhere? And then, of course, it leads up to just a joke that isn't funny. But that whole premise, the whole setup for that joke was botched, and like because you've already contradicted that from earlier in the movie. I'm giving Dirty Grandpa a 2 out of 10. It's a January bad comedy, about what I expected. Oh boy, The Fifth Wave is an adaptation of a YA dystopian future novel starring Chloe Grace Moretz. It's about these aliens that invade, and they invade in 5 waves, and their humans are just trying to survive, while the aliens, who they call, of course, the others, try to pick them off one by one, and them trying to survive. And she gets separated from her family, and she's just trying to figure out what's going on. And then the U.S. Army mysteriously shows up and starts training kids to fight, and that's kind of the premise of the movie. The Fifth Wave. It sucked. I don't know how you don't think it would suck after watching the trailer. It looks bad. This is like, we're getting to the point where we're at discount Divergent. Like, this is how dry we've run the well of these young adult dystopian future sci-fi novels, where the kids are the key to everything, and we can't trust the grown-ups because they're grown-ups, and kids rule. So, anyways, let's get into performances. Chloe Grace Moretz, she's serviceable. She's okay. We have Nick Robinson and Alex Rowe are, just near serviceable, kind of generic. They're not bad, just whatever. As these, these hunks, the men. And then we have, these child actors who are in varying degrees of cringeworthy. They're mercifully kept, in small roles, small speaking roles. Micah Monroe, the lead from It Follows, is in this movie. She was really good in It Follows. She is horrible in this movie. Whoa, whoa, is she bad? Every line she says is like this, and she's supposed to be tough. Wow, she was bad. Liev Schreiber looks like he doesn't even want to be there. He looks like, I was in Spotlight. What am I doing here? Just think of those dollars, man. You can do it, Liev. Yeesh. The movie starts off, and it has a sense of scale. There's a scene on the highway. It's all deserted. There's a bunch of these crashed cars, and it looks like there's some real production behind it. And then the movie, the longer and longer it goes on, the cheaper and cheaper and smaller this movie begins to feel, as if it were directed by 2 different people. Man, it started to look bad. There's a point where there's a fight scene between 2 people, and it's dark, and you can just really see the silhouettes, and it's the way it's shot. I'm glad it wasn't shaky, but you could tell they had stunt doubles who didn't look like the actors they had, so they did it this way. The special effects, for that matter, they're not bad. They're just noticeable and not good. The models are fine. The way they effectively tell a story, it's not like, I felt like I watched a scene from Norm of the North. They're not that bad. They're just pretty noticeable. Then we get to the dialogue, and the dialogue here is a really weak point, because it really makes these characters, especially our lead, really unlikable. It's just this, especially at the beginning when it's like, as if teenage girl talk was, you could tell it was written by 40-year-old men trying to be teenage girls. And then when it gets to the romance stuff, where it becomes a love triangle, but not really, pardon me. When it becomes a love triangle, the dialogue is the audience I was in began laughing. They kind of turned on it a little bit, and when it kind of becomes a love triangle thing, that's when the movie. Oh, you realize you're watching this movie. There's also the dialogue is also pretty spoon feeding. There's a point where a girl says, "She's cool." And we the audience are supposed to go, "Oh, okay, we're supposed to think she's cool." We have Liev Schreiber's just there to explain everything, and the ideas they raise are potentially interesting. They just have to explain them in the most juvenile way possible, the least developed way possible. Also, the way this movie was a little cheap was there's a big another action scene was there's a shootout in a bus in kind of this abandoned city that looks like it's on a soundstage in some backlot, and the way it's filmed is pretty awkward, as if they were trying to film around budget limitations, and the plot is just ultra generic. It's really bad. I think this is probably one of the lower tier YA adult dystopia novel things. I'm gonna give it a 2, probably, yeah, 2.5. 2 out of 10. The Boy is another horror movie. It is starring Lauren Cohan from The Walking Dead. It is like a Twilight Zone episode. It is set in this one location where Lauren Cohan plays a woman who is hired as a nanny for these weird old people to while they go away on holiday for this to babysit their boy. But it turns out their boy is a porcelain doll. Oh my gosh! And but they treat it like a person, and that's kind of weird. And they have rules. They even give her rules. You must follow these rules. And she's like, hey, whatever. And then weird things start happening as if the doll's alive. And there's a kind of the psychological element. And kind of a minimalist set, minimalist location, and that's the premise of the movie. And it's not good, but it was better than I thought it would be. I think this movie could have been a lot better. I should have loved this movie. The Twilight Zone is my favorite show, and this feels like a Twilight Zone episode. You're in the one setting, and the movie just is so eager to jump into the scares, get into the creepiness, and for characters to slowly walk down their hallways, and it's in such an eager and in such a rush to get to that, where it doesn't realize that the best horror movies they build in a natural way, and it's a release of tension. That's what horror is, and the movie. It's like, come on, cool yourself down, get it out of your system, and it just resorts to a lot of these really obvious, jump scares we've seen 100 million times. There's a dream scene. Now it's like, a loud noise. Oh, but it's okay. It's not scary. But is it? This movie has redeeming qualities about it. I think the art direction is great. The costume design is great. The cinematography, there's some style to the way it's filmed. Lauren Cohan is pretty good in the movie. She's not great, but she's pretty good. And then, what's his name? A man by the name of an actor named Rupert Evans. I was impressed by his performance. He plays a guy. He's the delivery man, and he's a man who thinks he's more charming than he actually is. He was really good. I was every time he was on screen I was impressed. So there's good things about this movie. There's redeeming qualities, but the bad more than outweighs the good. There's a big plot. There's first off, there's a subplot about this woman's past because she's trying to run from a past. There's a whole subplot with that, and it's weirdly inserted into the movie at the points at which they always have to remind you that this subplot exists. And the way that whole thing resolved was not very satisfying. The dialogue is pretty on the nose. You can tell when they're doing foreshadow dialogue, the way they say it, the way the music swells. There's some clunky storytelling in here, but. You know what? I thought this movie really kind of picked up in its second act when it kind of became more of a supernatural drama where she kind of buys into this doll is kind of alive thing. But before that, how how does this woman not know she's in a horror movie? She's an American. She's going to rural England in this estate, and there's these weird old people to nanny a doll that they think is real, and they even give her rules to follow. How does this woman not know she's in a horror movie? Just follow the rules. You know? So there's also, okay, there's the way this movie's edited. There's some, maybe the way it's directed. I'm gonna go on editing here because there's the way it's edited. The passage of time, I'm gonna call into question, gets a little confusing. Like, there's a couple of shots, and then somebody's like, "Oh, here's your first week's pay." I'm like, "Oh, a week's already passed." There's a couple details that were shown, and then I'm like, "Oh, does this character know that detail?" And then it turns out they don't. And what happened to that? How come that's not there? Did we ever see what happened to that? Or is it intentionally not there to kind of creep us out as to say, oh, what happened? But we can't, see that and be like, oh, how come it's not there? What happened? Oh, because I'm more confused and questioning the storytelling abilities. But then we get to the big twist, and it's a good twist. I thought it was a good twist. Certain things about it didn't really add up, but after the twist, it got really over the top in the climax. Like, it got over the top. And the way the movie resolves is pretty unsatisfying. I thought it would, surprise me a little bit, but it didn't. It was pretty disappointing with the way it wrapped up. And then the last 2 or 3 seconds, I mean, why? That didn't make any sense. I mean, I know how it happened, but why? Because this movie ends on a pretty definitive note. I don't see the function of that ending. So, in the end, it's alright. There's some good visual storytelling. I like the production design. I'll give it a 4 out of 10. Some of the acting's good. But that's my thoughts on The Boy. That's a lame name for a movie, though. They should have went with the original title, The Inhabitant. The next movie I saw was Jane Got a Gun, which is a Western starring Natalie Portman, Joel Edgerton, and Ewan McGregor. It is about a girl named Jane, as the title suggests, whose husband gets shot up pretty bad by a villain from their past, played by Ewan McGregor, and Ewan McGregor is trying to find her and presumably kill her, and so she enlists the help of Joel Edgerton, a man from her past, from before her days with her current husband and Ewan McGregor, to help fight off Ewan McGregor and his mustache-twirling villain. This movie had a lot of production issues behind it. If you know anything about the production of this movie, you know just how crazy it went. So, they had a director on board, they had Joel Edgerton in the bad guy role, they had Bradley Cooper in the Joel Edgerton role, and then Bradley Cooper left, and then Jude Law came in, and then the director left the first day of shooting, and then Jude Law left because he wanted to work with that director or something of the sort, and then they brought in Ewan McGregor, and then they switched Ewan McGregor and Joel Edgerton, and then they got a new director in Gavin O'Connor who gave us Warrior, which also had Joel Edgerton in it, and just a bunch of crazy stuff. So Gavin O'Connor only had like a day of preparation to really get started into this project. It was kind of a disaster, but mostly it's not noticeable. I think Gavin O'Connor has a restrained directing style. I don't feel like he's getting around budgetary limitations. I don't feel like he doesn't know what he's doing. I feel like, the production design, the costume design, the sets, it's all very beautiful. It looks very good. But I think the problems are with the script. And you'd think, a director has final say over a script, and you'd think Gavin O'Connor would be to blame. I'm not going to hold his feet to the fire on this one because, well, he only had a day of preparation. So the script right here is really the worst element of it, presumably, and its 2 most important things, the structure and way the movie is told with this structure, and the second being the characters. I'm going to start with the characters because you really don't care about them. And these 2 problems are symptomatic of each other. They kind of inform one another. So the characters are pretty hollow. They're kind of blank slates. They attempt to flesh them out with backstory. I think Joel Edgerton is the best actor in this movie, and I think he brings a humanity that the others don't. He just has a natural, great presence. You know, he was in Black Mass last year with Johnny Depp. He was in The Gift. He wrote and directed The Gift, and he even has a writing credit in this movie. So I don't know how much of it was him. I think some of the stuff revolving around his character was written by him. It's the most interesting thing in the movie, but it's not enough to save the movie. Jane is just kind of bland. I know this movie was trying to have like a bit of a feminist angle. That was kind of the whole pitch. It's a Western with typically a masculine genre, and it has a feminist twist. I think it gets lost in the shuffle here. Jane's a pretty weak character. She, usually has to rely on men the whole movie. I think Ewan McGregor, his character was weak. He has a mustache, but it's not long enough for him to twirl it. If it was, I'm sure he would. But yeah, he gives a fine. His performance is weird. So it's not bad, but he's really trying to wrestle that Southern accent, and he can't quite fully abandon that British twang in his voice. Now let's talk about the structure and the way this is told. So Act 1, oh no, this bad thing that's coming is going to happen, and I got to go get Joel Edgerton. Act 2, they just sit down and go, oh, let's talk about each other's backstory. We've got to flesh these characters out because we don't know anything about them. And then Act 3 is the big showdown. So this middle segment, the Act 2, is really where this movie loses me, because I think that this movie jumps onto a non-linear storytelling where they jump to different points in time, different stories in the past, and this movie would have heavily benefited, I feel, from just a linear story, just to have it be straight through. This is the beginning, this is where they started, this is how she and Joel Edgerton didn't get on the same page, this is how she kind of got, tangled up with Ewan McGregor and met her husband. This is how all that happened. That would have been a much better... And then we get to where she is at the start of this movie, in the middle, and I think that would have been better. It would have been a better way of starting it, because at the start of this movie, we don't care about her. Oh no, this bad thing's happening to her. Cool. Her name is Jane because I've seen the title of the movie. I've seen it on the poster. So I don't know these characters. I don't care about them. And then it feels like they're making it for lost time when they do the whole, we got to jump into their backstory. And their backstories are pretty just kind of typical misunderstandings. So there's nothing very special about them. And the way the movie tells their stories is problematic. But as I said, I think, the set design's really nice, the costume design's nice. There's some very striking imagery. I mean, there's a really nice shot that's mostly silhouetted, but there's bullet holes in a wall, and the orange light is seeping in, so you're seeing the silhouettes move across this whole, these small spigots of light. It's really nice. There's some decent shots here. I mean, it's competently told. It's not like it's a mess. It looks like, there's some production here. But overall, it is pretty bland. It's not particularly great. When they get to the big action at the end, I thought it was, decently filmed action. But they're trying to go for the whole Sam Peckinpah angle. It has a very similar look to it. You can tell they're, really going after that same visual style as the Wild Bunch. The ending is kind of one of those defend the houses, what's going on inside versus what's going on outside, as a Straw Dogs. A lot of people say Home Alone or Skyfall, but that all kind of stems from Straw Dogs, which is Sam Peckinpah. But that sense of tension that just boils and boils and boils before it can't, hold it any longer, and it just explodes. That kind of build of tension and that just release of anger and violence and frustration. That's not felt here because, again, partly because of the characters, but also because the movie is filmed in a very restrained way, which I like the way it was telling its story. I just wish it's allusions to Sam Peckinpah weren't so obvious, because when it gets to that, that's when it's not satisfying at the end, because by the end you realize what they were trying to do, and it was very unsuccessful. I'm going to give Jane Got a Gun a 4 out of 10. It's bad. I think it's a bad movie, but it is one of the better movies I saw this month. You know, whatever. You can't win them all. The next movie I saw was 50 Shades of Black, the latest Marlon Wayans parody comedy spoof movies, starring Marlon Wayans, and I don't think, he produced it. I don't think he wrote or directed it, but this is mostly improv, I'd imagine, anyway, so doesn't really need a writer. It's a parody of, as you could probably imagine, 50 Shades of Grey, that movie last year that was awful and terrible and wasn't good at all. So this movie's a spoof of that. It's a scene-for-scene spoof parody of that movie, and it's somehow worse than 50 Shades of Grey. 50 Shades of Grey is it's like an hour and 50 minutes, 50. And this movie is like 90 minutes long. This movie felt longer, and I would rather watch 50 Shades of Grey before ever watching this movie ever again. This is one of the worst comedies I've ever seen in my life. Now to be fair, I have not seen one of these Marlon Wayans spoof movies. Like, I haven't seen any of the Scary Movies. I haven't seen either of the A Haunted House movies. I haven't seen any of them. I haven't seen any of the Friedberg Seltzer movies, like Epic Movie, Disaster Movie, Meet the Spartans, etc. So this is kind of like my popping of the proverbial cherry on these spoof movies, and it's just as bad as people were telling me, but I only saw a poster for this movie. I didn't see a trailer. I just heard the premise, whatever. Man, is this not funny. But it's not funny, and it has no brain. There's no sense of continuity to this movie. This movie doesn't work on its own. It's entirely relying on you having seen 50 Shades of Grey and understanding that movie, and it's really, really annoying, because I'm just going to get right into it. The way these jokes are set up is it's basically each scene is an isolated scene within itself to tell, like, a joke. So when you have, like, one scene, he's, spanking the girl, and she doesn't have any feeling in her butt because she has butt implants. I guess that's a joke. And then later in the movie, he's, whipping her because it's making fun of the ending. Then she goes, oh my goodness, my butt hurts. You think, oh, well, in the earlier, she couldn't, why can she feel now? And you think, oh, never mind it, they're just making jokes. Well, that'd be fine and dandy if these non sequitur jokes that aren't really related and each scene's a new joke, if there weren't recurring gags, and quite a bit of recurring gags. So when you're having recurring gags and these isolated jokes that just break consistency and contradict what has previously happened, that's bad storytelling. That's bad joke telling. That's bad comedy. So first, now let's get into the whole other thing. A huge majority of these jokes don't land because they're just reference based, and they're just making pop culture references that the audience gets that, right? Okay, I recognize who The Weeknd is. Yes, I know The Weeknd got really big off of that song he did for 50 Shades of Grey. Am I just supposed to laugh because I'm aware of who The Weeknd is and his affiliation with 50 Shades of Grey? That's not a joke. I just recognize who that is. That's the joke. I'm supposed to laugh because I know who that is. Same thing, there's a whole scene that is a parody of Whiplash. Why? I saw Whiplash. I love Whiplash. It was one of the best movies of one of the best years in recent memory for movies, and it was, it was great. Nobody's seen Whiplash. Nobody cares about Whiplash. I care about it, but a majority of people who are going to see this movie have never heard of that movie, and why reference it? It didn't make any sense to do that. And then later, there's a Zero Dark 30 reference. Why? If you think Whiplash has no relevance right now, then Zero Dark 30 has even less relevance. Why make that joke? It had no place, it wasn't funny, and the jokes also go on for way too long. There's a joke about She's chained up, and they can't get the locks undone. And that joke is potentially good. It goes on forever, and it just gets more and more over the top, more and more over the top, and it's if it wasn't funny, simple, what makes you think it's going to be funnier when you're making it bigger? It's not. So it's also one of those things where, as you know, symptomatic of it not being able to stand on its own, these characters have these interactions that the scene ends with them yelling at each other and "you stupid," and then they leave. And then the next scene they're talking to each other and they wouldn't even want to even have anything to do with each other after the last time we saw them, but the only reason they're doing it now is because it's a parody of 50 Shades of Grey, and because 50 Shades of Grey has another scene, they're making another scene to make a joke of 50 Shades of Grey. And it's also just fart jokes, poop jokes. There's so many times where it's just like these characters lick things. And then they go, ooh, ew, that's gross. Well, you licking things weren't gross. You licking things weren't funny. And you tasting something that was broadcast from a mile away. If you have a situation where somebody's just licking something forever, the easiest thing you can do is, oh, I tasted something gross. And this movie does that gag 4 times, 5 times. You know, ooh, I smell something gross. Oh, I tasted something gross. Ooh, I touched something gross. It does that all the time. All the time. It's you know what? If I can get a $200 ticket for going through an intersection on a yellow light, then I think Marlon Wayans should have some form of punishment for making something this oppressively bad. You know, the jokes about black people versus white people. They're not clever. They're not insightful. They just throw the N-word and F-bomb around thinking that it's funny, and it's not. It's just, if I'm loud enough, I'll be funny enough. And that's not the way it works. You need to have cleverness. You need to have wit. You need to have something to be funny. 50 Shades of Grey, 50 Shades of Black, I couldn't think of a single thing to make this movie worse. They bring Jane Seymour. They bring Mrs. Brady. They bring poor Fred Willard into another one of these. Come on. It has Vine stars in this movie. And, of course, all the side characters are just as annoying as our key characters. This movie makes no sense. The premise for the jokes are abandoned for the punchline. The premise of the jokes make no sense, so the punchline doesn't have any effect. It's just all over the place. It's not funny. It's 90 minutes too long. I felt like I was in that movie for at least 2.5 hours. It is so bad. I am giving 50 Shades of Black a 1 out of 10. That's my lowest score. I don't do 0.5s or zeros, so I'm giving it a 1 out of 10. I only gave out 1 last year, so that was to Black Hat, and this isn't as bad as Black Hat because Black Hat is longer, but this is worse than 50 Shades of Grey. I hated this movie. The next movie I saw was The Finest Hours. It's the latest movie from Disney Productions. It stars Chris Pine, Casey Affleck, Eric Bana, and Holiday Granger. It is the true life story of a U.S. Coast Guard rescue mission, still considered the most daring in U.S. Coast Guard history. A T2 oil tanker splits in half off the coast of Nantucket, and in the middle of this freezing cold winter, I think it's in February of January or February, and they have to go out, and they have this tiny boat. Chris Pine has to go out and rescue them, and Casey Affleck and his crew are the people on the T2 oil tanker. And it is directed by Craig Gillespie, who gave us Lars and the Real Girl, and recently he also gave us $1 Million Arm. This movie is okay. It's not bad. It's not that good either, though. Here's my issues with the movie. Well, you know what? Let's do positives. You could definitely tell Gillespie is inspired by Spielberg. There's a lot of really Spielbergian moments, a lot of Spielbergian shots we get in here, and You know what? I thought a lot of the filmmaking finesse was good, very consistent. There's a sense of production behind this. There's great costumes, great sets. There's some good storytelling here. There's the big reveal of the tanker getting split in two is great. The whole sinking of that whole situation was great. There's a scene where it's just Chris Pine and his small crew trying to get over waves, and they have to get over like 5 waves, and they come up with a bunch of fun, different, unique ways to get over these waves. So the way it's told is really cool. There's a lot of really good acting here. Chris Pine gives a very good performance. The way this movie started out, he was giving a very good performance. And Holliday Grainger, she is gorgeous. She looks like an old Hollywood movie star. She's good too. Casey Affleck is the standout, though. He is great. Very good. He's very, his usual understated self. A lot of his he's acting with his face. You can just tell what's on his mind at all times. He's just always trying to figure out a way to solve a problem. The problem is, the way the script ends up going is Holliday Grainger, is in this movie too much, and she has nothing to do, so she just kind of wanders from scene to scene. Chris Pine, after the first 30 minutes, only has one thing to do. Shout and tell people what to do as he's driving a boat. Just the same thing over and over again. Same way he talks the last hour and a half of the movie. Eric Bana is really wrestling that southern accent. But Casey Affleck is consistently great. This is really a movie about solving problems. I really like the whole situation where they're on this boat, or at least the half of a boat, they know it's going to eventually sink, but they're going to try to make sure it doesn't sink for as long as possible, just in case people come in to help them. And that was really cool. I really like that, how, they try to do something goes wrong, they think about it, okay, how do we fix this, and they do it. And that's a lot of fun. I like seeing that. Characters being proactive, they're surviving. We learn a lot about characters through how they try to survive. That's why survival movies are some of my favorite movies ever. I have a really soft spot for those. The problem is these subplots. There's 3 subplots. And I don't know if I could tell you if any of them were the main subplot. That's the problem. It's not like there's a main story and then 2 subplots. It feels like there's 3... It's like a Frankenstein of these 3 individual stories that feels like an anthology movie that somebody edited and cut into a linear fashion. So naturally, some situations are going to be more entertaining than others, and when you get to the segments that aren't as good, you're just waiting for them to go back to the stuff you are interested in. It is a little long. I think that the special effects at times aren't that good. They're very noticeable. I think the way the script starts and eventually what it turns into was disappointing. The way it started, it almost felt like Brooklyn. That great movie from last year. It's this, long conversational scene just between Chris Pine and a friend, and then he meets Holliday Grainger, and then they just talk for a little bit, and they just have their scene where they're just talking, getting to know each other. It's very quiet and unassuming, and it's just them talking. I'm like, oh, this is what it's going to be about. It's going to be this this story about these people's relationship, and then this big crisis that's going to happen is just going to kind of be in the background. It's going to focus on their relationship, and then the big crisis happens, and then that takes precedent right in the middle of the movie. And so I felt like it abandoned what it was telling me what it was at first. It just kind of abandoned that and became something else. And I liked what it became, for different reasons, but it was a little frustrating. The movie tells me it's going to be something and then becomes something else. The ending is a little schmaltzy. It gets very sentimental, and it kind of throws away any kind of logic that would be happening for the sake of that emotional hook. But the problem is I don't feel like it earns it, because I feel like this movie is a little emotionally hollow, a little thematically hollow, where there's this whole idea of regulation versus luck. You know, what do you do just to get lucky, and do you just follow regulation and stuff? And they kind of start that thread, but they don't really develop it a whole lot, and then it just kind of disappears from the movie, and then they kind of bring it back at the end, and as if, you know, they're making it come full circle, but they didn't really do anything to make it come full circle, and that was pretty disappointing. So when you get to the end, and they're trying to make it feel like it was more than it was, and that was a little frustrating. So The Finest Hours, in the end, it's okay. There's some good filmmaking here, but there's also a little bit of bad filmmaking too. It's not a very immersive experience, and I think it should be. I mean, these people, you don't see their breath. I mean, this is in the dead of winter. What's going on, guys? And I know that's a weird nitpick to have, but I think this is a movie that this movie I should feel cold while watching, a la The Hateful Eight or The Revenant, but I don't. I feel aware that I'm watching a movie, and I feel like this is a movie that could have so easily been an immersive experience, but it wasn't. So I'm going to give The Finest Hours a 6 out of 10. It's okay. If this is on TV, you know, maybe check it out. If it's at Redbox, you know, $1 rental, go ahead. You could definitely do worse. And I have 9 other movies before this that were worse. So, yeah, The Finest Hours, it's okay. Kung Fu Panda 3 is the 3rd installment in this Kung Fu Panda series. I think this is the final one, if I'd have to assume. So I guess the final installment in the Kung Fu Panda trilogy. This one follows Po, voiced by Jack Black. He's still being instructed by Master Shifu, voiced by Dustin Hoffman, and you got, you know, the Warriors 5 or whatever. You got Angelina Jolie, Jackie Chan, Lucy Liu, David Cross, Seth Rogen as these, you know, different masters, as like a crane, a mantis, a snake, tigress, a monkey. And what this one's about is it's a progression of the last couple, where now Po is going to have to be a teacher. It's now his turn to become a teacher, and now there's this really, we have a new villain voiced by J.K. Simmons called Kai, where he's trying to collect the chi of all of the Kung Fu masters so he can be the best and be better than Master Oogway, who is the turtle guy. And he's actually an old friend turned adversary of Oogway, and so Po needs to learn to master chi, so he needs to master the art of chi. There's not a character named Master Chi, and that's where they have to go to. He also finds his dad, voiced by Bryan Cranston, who's a panda. They go to this, kind of coincidentally, through a circumstance of convenience, it just so happens that, what's his name? Bryan Cranston Bear, Papa Panda, voiced by Bryan Cranston, comes from a secret village of pandas in the mountains, and he's going to teach him how to be a panda and how to master chi. And that's the premise, and I thought it was good. Oh my goodness. We broke the rule. There is a good movie in January. Oh my goodness. Now, the whole thing isn't there's only bad movies in January. The whole cliche is there's not good movies in January. And now there is. Now, to be fair, this movie was supposed to come out last December, but they moved it because they didn't want to compete with Star Wars, and understandably so. But that doesn't change the fact that it was in January, and it was pretty good. Let's start off right off the bat. The animation is incredible. Every bit as bad as Norm of the North was, this is every bit as good. It is unique, animated, so it's crazy. So you kind of have your general, character models, environments, usual rendering we're used to seeing for these Kung Fu Panda movies, and they're lush and gorgeous, and the fur looks so fuzzy, and the grass looks so green, and the way these are colored, and the environment they inhabit, there's a unique aesthetic to this world. And then, but what else they do is they kind of do this whole cel-shaded, they sometimes go into this cel-shaded look. Sometimes they go into this paint, this oil painting kind of look, and it kind of transitions in and out of these styles at times in one shot. And it looks incredible, and it's a very unique visual experience. There's great visual storytelling. There's very clear understanding of the animated form here. I really liked how animated it was and how it told its story, because it really elevated the material. The directors, there's two of them, the directors here clearly understand the animated form, and they use their knowledge and experience to tell this story in a very classy, very elegant, very impressive way. I also like a lot of the voice acting. I think Jack Black is great as Poe. Dustin Hoffman is a weird choice, but I think a fitting choice for Master Shifu. Bryan Cranston is awesome as Papa Panda. I really like the panda culture in general. They're just like kind of like these slow people. They're not like, mentally challenged or anything. They're just very laid back and go about life in a very slow way. I got a good chuckle out of me. I liked the panda culture. I like David Cross as a crane. I didn't think that would work, but it does. And then J.K. Simmons as the villain, as Kai. He's awesome. He's really good. It's a great choice. J.K. Simmons can do no wrong. He's awesome at everything he does. And he when you listen to his voice, it doesn't sound like J.K. Simmons. He's doing something a little bit different with his voice. But it sounds so natural. It doesn't sound like somebody's putting on a voice, like in Norm of the North. So, but there's some bad voice acting. I think Lucy Liu as a snake isn't very good. I think Seth Rogen as a crane is a bizarre choice that doesn't fit. But for the most part, the voice acting is good. I think a lot of the jokes land. There's a joke here about a panda that just hugs people, and it never got old. They kept going back to it, and I kept laughing. I kept expecting that joke to tire, but it never did. There's the whole idea of pandas rolling. I got a kick out of me. I like this panda culture. There's a joke about oversleeping that I thought landed, and this is in the trailer, but I think it worked so well. Of Jack Black sees his father for the first time, and he's like, "What are you doing here?" "I'm looking for my son. I lost him a long time ago. I'm looking for my father too." "Well, I hope you find your father. I hope you find your son." And then they leave and walk away. But you think you know how that scene's gonna go, of they're gonna realize who each other are, they're gonna embrace, but they're so slow and they don't get it, and it got a kick out of me. It was kind of an easy joke, but the way they told that joke, I thought it worked. But there's also like a joke where, again, panda culture, the way they kind of developed this panda culture was so good. I thought the movie kind of got off to it took a little bit of, there's some on-the-nose dialogue. Getting off the ground was a little bumpy, but when it hit its stride, like 20 minutes in, it hit that stride for a good hour. Like, it was great for a long time. Then the problem comes in towards the end. It really succumbs to very conventional storytelling. It kind of digs itself into situations and then miraculously digs itself out of situations just to have a happy ending. And it ends on a very DreamWorks note of everyone's celebrating and dancing and everyone's doing their character quirks, so we can all go, "Oh, I remember them. Oh, I remember them." There's a character played by Kate Hudson who's kind of she was entirely expendable. Towards the end though, that the storytelling got very conventional and typical animated movie, and it really played it safe when it had the potential to not play it safe and really elevate itself, but it didn't. But that doesn't change the fact that I was really enjoying this for a very long time. And by the way, the fight scenes, the whole fight choreography, the way they use this animation of these fight scenes is so riveting and very exciting. And I watched this in 3D, and it looked great. I've said it before. I don't think I've said it on video before, but I've always said that animated movies are a better form, a better medium for 3D. I think there's more possibilities for it. I think back when Megamind came out, back in the whole 3D fever pitch of like 2010, 2011, somewhere in there, when Megamind came out, that was the one that stood out. I think 3D is better used for animated movies, and I think this is a great example to be used in an argument for that. I'm going to give Kung Fu Panda 3 a 7 out of 10. Very enjoyable, very exciting. I just wish you didn't play it too safe. Anyways, that's all the movies I saw in January 2016. All told, it's the best January we've had in a long time. I think this is the best January movie best January for movies I've ever seen. I mean, sure, there was a lot of bad movies as per usual, but it's not like we didn't get like a Black Hat. We didn't get Mordecai. We didn't get Taken 3, The Boy Next Door. We didn't get that stuff, and I'm so glad, and it's happy, and that we have good movie. Like, we had a good movie. We had a movie that was relatively decent, and then, you know, some bad movies and just kind of generic, bad, forgettable stuff. But it was, for the most part, really good. And you're probably wondering why I didn't review The Revenant, and if you're asking me why I didn't talk about The Revenant, please educate yourself on the concept of a limited release. I'm not going to go into it here, but the basic premise is it's technically a December 2015 movie. So that's why I didn't talk about it here. Anyways, that's all. That's it. That's all of them. Next time I'm going to be doing individual videos, video reviews for The Choice, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, and the new Coen Brothers movie, Hail Caesar. And thank you. See you next time, where I'll be off the cuff again.